What if the biggest roadblock to your goals, whether you're, chasing a dream, scaling a business, or even just trying to bounce back from a setback,
Mm.
what if it isn't something external?
But something inside, like right in your own head.
Exactly. We're talking about ego.
And that is precisely what we are diving into today. You asked for a deep dive into Ryan Holiday's Ego is the Enemy, really looking for those core insights.
Yeah, the stuff that helps you quickly get a handle on these internal obstacles and, well, overcome them.
So that's the plan.
Our mission, then, is to pull out the most crucial lessons from the book, show how ego pops up in different phases, aspiration, success, and failure.
And what's really compelling about Holiday's approach, I think, is just how universal this struggle is. He pulls examples from everywhere.
Right, like athletes, entrepreneurs.
Historical figures, writers, artists. It just proves that no matter what you do, ego is potentially lurking there, a potential pitfall.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Stage 1, aspiration. Now, you might think ego's only a problem after you've actually, done something big.
But the book argues no, it can be a massive hindrance right from the get-go.
That's the surprising part, isn't it?
It really is. Even early on, ego can create this inflated sense of self, believing in your potential way before you've, proven it. Holiday even talks about his own experience.
Oh yeah, like dropping out of college.
Exactly. Feeling he was on the verge of something huge, getting some early wins, some validation.
Ah, that feeling. The one to watch. And you can totally see how early praise could puff you up before you've really done the hard yards or faced real challenges.
Precisely. And this isn't new. Think way back, ancient Greece, like 374 BC. Isocrates advising Demonicus.
Okay.
His main points: modesty, justice, self-control. Basically, get yourself sorted before you try to tackle the world. He warns about getting swayed by emotions, flattery.
Wow. And that advice still lands today, doesn't it? You even see bits of it in Shakespeare, like Polonius and Hamlet.
Totally. It just shows how timeless these ideas are, staying grounded when you're ambitious. The core message is: conquer yourself first.
Conquer yourself. I like that.
And what's fascinating is how different that feels from a lot of modern messages, right? It's all self-promotion, get validation.
Yeah, build your brand.
Right. But Holiday, drawing on this older wisdom, really pushes for, inner strength, being guided by principles, not just applause.
So to really paint a picture of this, this grounded ambition, Holiday brings up General William Tecumseh Sherman.
Ah, Sherman. Yeah, interesting case.
Because he wasn't immediately obvious, great leader material,
Yeah.
despite connections.
Exactly. His rise was slow, steady, years learning the ropes, different roles, and then when the Civil War kicks off, he gets promoted.
And then he does something weird.
Totally weird. He makes this request to Lincoln, basically: I'll take the promotion, but only if I don't have to be in superior command.
Get out! Who does that?
Yeah.
Everyone wants more power.
Right. He's asking for less responsibility. It blew his biographers away, too, and noted his success always seemed to kind of surprise him.
Which led to this. What did Holiday call it? Modesty of moderation.
Yeah, that's the phrase. A focus on contributing to the team effort, not just chasing personal glory. It wasn't fake humility. It was genuine self-awareness.
That modesty of moderation. It's about realistically knowing your abilities.
Yeah.
Without needing everyone else to tell you you're great.
Exactly. That self-awareness, maybe even a little healthy self-doubt, keeps the ego in check.
Okay. Another trap. Holiday flags in this aspiration phase. Talking too much. Seems harmless, right? Bragging about your plans.
But he makes a really strong case that it can actually undermine you, sabotage your progress.
How so?
Well, the basic idea is that talking about doing something uses energy, and doing the thing also uses energy. Some research even suggests your brain can almost mistake the talking for the doing.
So you get that little dopamine hit, that sense of accomplishment just from yapping about it?
Precisely. A premature sense of completion. And Holiday connects this to Stephen Pressfield's concept of resistance. That internal force stopping you from doing the actual work.
Right, the resistance.
Talking can be a way to avoid that struggle. Marlon Brando had that quote about the terror of the void. Maybe talking fills that scary silence of not having done it yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. The bigger the goal, the scarier it is, maybe the more tempting it is to just talk.
It's a subtle trap. Drains the energy you need for the real action.
And then there's that really powerful idea Holiday pulls from John Boyd, the choice between to be somebody and to do something.
Oh, that's huge. Let's unpack that. Boyd argued, basically, if your main drive is to be somebody, get the status, the recognition, the power.
Yeah.
Then your ego can easily twist your real purpose, which should be to do something meaningful, something of value.
Wow. And Boyd's exercise.
Yeah.
crossing out duty, honor, country.
Yeah, and replacing it with pride, power, greed. It's stark, isn't it? Shows how easily even noble ideas can get hijacked by ego. The real question becomes, what's driving you? External validation or a genuine desire to contribute?
Really makes you look at your own motivations. Are you chasing the title or the impact?
Exactly. And staying on this theme of humility and learning even after you get somewhere, Holiday uses the Kirk Hammett story.
Oh, from Metallica.
Yeah.
Right. He lands this dream gig, biggest band on the planet, pretty much.
You'd think, okay, made it. Peak achieved. But no, what does he do?
He goes and takes guitar lessons from Joe Satriani.
Incredible, right? He knew he still had more to learn, and Satriani wasn't messing around a rigorous teacher. But Hammett, this rock star, was willing to go back to basics.
That's a serious commitment to being a student, always, no matter how successful you are.
It really underscores it. Mastery is a lifelong thing.
Absolutely. Okay, then Holiday tackles that classic advice. Follow your passion. Which sounds great, but...
But the book throws some cold water on it, yeah. Suggests that raw passion can actually be, well, misleading.
How so? Like it blinds you.
It can blind you to weaknesses, yeah. And it's often a poor substitute for actual discipline, hard work, real mastery. Passion alone, not enough.
And he gives some examples, right? Some cautionary tale.
Yeah, like the Segway, huge passion, huge launch, but ultimately fizzled. Or the proponents of the Iraq War seemingly ignoring dissent. The Into the Wild story, kind of romantic but tragic. Robert Falcon Scott's Antarctic disaster.
Driven by passion and ambition, maybe, but lacking in planning.
In each case, passion didn't lead to a good outcome. The book suggests it's more about what you must do, driven by purpose and discipline, not just what you feel passionate about in the moment.
Passion can be impulsive.
Oh.
Okay, so for people just starting out, the book has this idea, obeisance, or the canvas strategy.
Yeah, the canvas strategy. It's about deliberately putting your ego aside, focusing on supporting successful people, clearing the path for others, making them look good.
So instead of trying to be the star right away, you become indispensable behind the scenes.
Exactly. Think Ben Franklin writing anonymous letters to push his ideas, no credit needed initially. Or Bill Belichick starting out, volunteering for grunt work, but mastering film analysis, feeding insights to senior coaches who got the praise.
Learn by serving.
That's the core insight. Recognize you're probably the least experienced. The best way to learn is to contribute humbly, soak it all up from those ahead of you.
Makes sense. And the last point for aspiration. Restraint. Self-control. Especially when things are unfair. Jackie Robinson.
Such a powerful story. Incredibly gifted player, breaking the color barrier, facing just horrific, relentless abuse.
And Branch Rickey, the Dodgers GM, his key question wasn't just about baseball skill, was it?
No. It was, do you have the guts not to fight back?
Wow.
And Robinson's willingness to endure that, to put the larger goal integration above his own justifiable anger. It's an incredible example of suppressing ego for a greater purpose. He said one incident was the hardest thing he ever did, but he understood the stakes.
It really puts your own tolerance for, minor frustrations into perspective, doesn't it? When you think about what he went through for something so significant. Okay, that brings us to stage 2. Success.
Right. You've made it, maybe got some recognition, achieved something, but paradoxically, the book argues ego can be an even bigger enemy now.
More dangerous after success. How?
Well, there's this risk of getting trapped in your own head, believing your own hype, basically. Holiday mentions fictional characters, Holden Caulfield, Arturo Bendini, Binks Bowling.
All kind of consumed by their internal world.
Exactly. And interestingly, their creators, Salinger, Fonte, Percy, seem to wrestle with similar stuff. Self-obsession, maybe disillusionment. Plato talked about people feasting on their own thoughts, preferring that internal chatter to reality.
And psychologically, that makes sense. You reinforce your biases, stop listening to outside input.
It's like this internal radio station is always on. Channel 1 is self-praise, Channel 2 is self-criticism, just constant noise.
Which sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
And distracting.
Totally. Creates blind spots, hinders clear thinking. General McClellan during the Civil War, constantly trusting bad intelligence because it fit his narrative. That's ego-distorting reality.
Right, ego-warping perception. And the contrast Holiday uses is General George C. Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall deliberately chose not to keep a diary during World War II.
Why? Most leaders would.
He worried it would make him self-conscious, make him perform for history, potentially cloud his judgment in the moment. He wanted to stay objective.
That's incredible discipline, staying focused on the present task.
And it highlights a key distinction the book makes: real confidence. That's earned through hard work, real achievements. It's not the brittle arrogance of ego.
So getting rid of ego doesn't leave a void. It leaves room for, what was
Uh-huh.
the rock-solid humility?
Rock solid humility and genuine confidence. Yeah. Being secure without needing constant pats on the back.
And that earned confidence comes from doing the work, right? Not just having ideas.
Precisely. That story about Degas, the painter, struggling with poetry. He had tons of ideas.
But Mallarmé told him.
It's not with ideas, it's with words. Execution matters. Or Henry Ford. You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do.
It's the doing.
Yeah.
Darwin spending decades on his theory before publishing. Bill Bradley's insane practice ethic in basketball.
Constant work. That's where mastery comes from. And even Sherman, who we mentioned earlier, he had that middle period in his career, seemed like he wasn't achieving much.
Right?
But that was when he was building the inner resilience, the strategic depth that paid off later. Patience, inner development.
Which brings us to maybe the ultimate cautionary tale of success fueling ego. Howard Hughes.
Oh, yeah. Hughes, on the surface, total success. Money, fame, innovation.
But the book shows how that success, combined with unchecked ego, led to isolation, paranoia, self-destruction, really.
Yeah.
Joan Didion's point about us making him a hero is so sharp.
Despite the glamorous image, he became this recluse, driven by obsessions. Holiday argues ego was central to his decline, wasting incredible potential. It's a stark reminder. External success doesn't equal inner well-being if ego is running the show.
Sobering. So, to avoid that trapped success leading to stagnation or worse, the book hammers home. Always stay a student.
Always, even at the top. And Genghis Khan is the surprising example here.
Genghis Khan, the conqueror.
Yeah. Known for conquest, obviously. But his lasting success came partly from being incredibly open to learning from the people he conquered.
Really? Like what?
Siege warfare techniques, better ways to govern, adopting technologies, even valuing different skills and cultures within his empire. He wasn't afraid to learn from others.
That's fascinating. Constant learning, constant adaptation. And Peter Drucker's point, learning needs structure, not just desire.
Absolutely. And another way to stay grounded in success, Bill Walsh's standard of performance idea.
The football coach.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing just on winning.
He focused obsessively on the details, every single aspect of practice, preparation, execution. His belief was if you nail the process, the fundamentals, consistently, the score takes care of itself.
Trust the process.
Oh.
Don't get lost in the hype of predicting victory.
Right. He apparently even fired a coach for complaining about focusing on tiny details. And the book warns about crafting these perfect narratives about your past wins.
Yeah, that can lead to arrogance, right? Thinking you've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Tobias Wolff's quote about stories being cobbled together later.
Exactly. We smooth out the rough edges, forget the luck involved. Reality is messier. And ego, even when you're successful, often just wants more. Envy kicks in.
Ulysses S. Grant, after all his military success, struggled financially later.
Yeah, a poignant example of that insatiable desire, never enough.
It's like you're on a treadmill. And success can also breed that sense of entitlement, needing control, paranoia.
Totally. Those examples are almost funny if they weren't real. Xerxes whipping the sea, General Scott pitying an enraged imbecile. That's ego gone wild. Irrational.
So how do you manage success effectively? The book contrasts Eisenhower and DeLorean.
Right. Eisenhower in the White House. Organized, efficient, delegated, built a system. DeLorean with his car company. Brilliant vision, maybe, but terrible execution. Too much ego, disorganization, distracted by image.
So vision isn't enough. You need the discipline to manage, to execute.
Exactly. Which leads to Pat Riley's concept, the disease of me.
Ah, the disease of me. What happens after a team wins?
Yeah, that's when it can creep in. Individual egos, personal agendas start to take priority over the team's collective goal. Internal friction starts.
You see it all the time in sports, business.
And the ultimate antidote, the example Holiday holds up, is George C. Marshall again.
Marshall. How did he avoid the disease of me?
Just this incredible humility about rank, turning down honors, always focused on the larger mission, even letting Eisenhower get the D-Day command glory. He served the cause, not himself.
Truman said Marshall never did think about himself.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it? Challenges that idea that you have to be self-promoting to lead effectively and have a real impact.
Okay, which takes us naturally to the third stage, failure. And this, arguably, is where ego can do the most damage, stop us from learning, from bouncing back.
Absolutely. And the first step the book stresses is getting out of your own head.
Yeah.
Stop the endless rumination. Alan Watts said overthinking makes you lose touch with reality.
And failure, adversity.
Yeah.
They're going to happen, right? It's inevitable. That analogy of the black horseman arriving at the end of the party.
Yeah, George Goodman's analogy, those moments will come, is how you respond that matters.
And Katharine Graham's story is just incredible here. Taking over the Washington Post after her husband's suicide, no experience.
None. And then immediately faces crisis after crisis. Pentagon Papers, Watergate, hostile takeover attempt, a massive strike.
Just relentless pressure. But she didn't fold.
She found her way. Made incredibly brave decisions, led the Post to huge success. It really embodies that Bill Walsh quote, "Almost always, your road to victory goes through a place called failure."
Failure isn't the end. It can be part of the path to victory.
If you let it be. But ego gets in the way. It makes us take things personally, that narcissistic injury idea.
So instead of seeing a mistake as data, you see it as an attack on your self-worth.
Exactly. You get defensive, you can't admit fault, and boom, you don't learn. Growth stops.
So when things get tough, you need resilience, purpose, focus on the actual task,
Yeah.
not nursing your ego.
Right. Think about Bill Walsh again that first season. 2 wins, 14 losses. Terrible record, same as the year before.
But he saw progress.
He saw progress in the process, in the systems they were building. He wasn't just looking at the scoreboard. He focused on the fundamentals.
Which ties into that idea of alive time or dead time.
Yes. When you face a setback, a period where you're stuck, what do you do at that time? Is it just wasted, dead time? Or do you make it alive?
And Malcolm X in prison. That's the ultimate example.
Absolutely. Facing years locked up, he could have just existed. But instead, he turns prison into his university. Self-education, reading constantly.
Total transformation. Using that time, making it alive.
That's it. And Holiday gives other examples. Francis Scott Key writing the anthem while detained, Viktor Frankl finding meaning in a concentration camp, Ian Fleming creating Bond after setbacks, Walt Disney starting over.
Choosing to learn to create, even in the worst circumstances.
But ego can pull you the other way after failure, make you double down on the same bad patterns. John DeLorean again.
Trying to save his company with a drug deal.
Yeah. Desperate, ego-driven move that led to total disaster. Contrast that with Steve Jobs after being fired from Apple. Painful, sure. But eventually, some humility, reflection, focusing on fixing his flaws, then the huge comeback.
He didn't let ego completely destroy him. He learned. Unlike, say, Dove Charney or Alcibiades, whose egos just made failure worse.
Right. The book stresses that real strength isn't about never failing. It's about constantly holding yourself to a higher standard. Discipline over disposition.
And the final point for navigating failure, always love. Letting go of bitterness.
Yeah, letting go of anger, resentment, even towards people who wronged you. William Randolph Hearst's obsessive campaign against Citizen Kane.
It backfired on him, right? Damaged his own legacy more than the film's.
Totally. His ego couldn't let it go. Compare that to leaders like Frederick Douglass, Barbara Jordan, MLK, always advocating love and empathy over hate. Even Orson Welles just seemed amused by Hearst's attacks.
Handle adversity with grace, not grudges. People like Churchill, Katharine Graham, they faced isolation, tough times, but endured.
And that final thought for failure. You must sweep the floor every minute of every day, and then sweep again. Constant effort, perseverance, no matter what.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive on ego is the enemy. The central theme is pretty stark, isn't it?
It really is. Ego is this constant adversary. Doesn't matter if you're starting out, riding high, or picking up the pieces. It's always there.
But the insights from Holiday offer really practical guidance. Tools to recognize it, manage it.
Definitely. It makes you really examine yourself. You know, where might ego be tripping you up?
Yeah. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Thinking about aspirations, success, failure. Where do you see ego showing up most strongly in your life right now?
And maybe what's one specific thing, one concrete action you could take today to consciously check that ego, to move forward with maybe a bit more humility and focus on the actual work?
Less self-investment, more meaningful contribution. That seems to be the core call.
Exactly.
And for anyone wanting to go even deeper, Holiday's book has a fantastic bibliography. Loads more to explore there.
Definitely worth checking out. It's been a great discussion.
Agreed. Really insightful.
Yep.
Until the next deep dive.
Thank you for joining us at Wisdom House, where we bring you timeless insights from the greatest books. If you found this deep dive valuable, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom House. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you in the next video.